Hello and welcome to the Corangamite Shire monthly meeting for June. I'm Kate Megan, the Mayor of the Corangamite Shire, and I'll introduce the rest of the councillors and directors that we have around the table today. So I have Deputy Mayor Laurie Hickey, Councillor Ruth Constrain, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Jamie Bogles, Councillor Geraldine Canady, and Councillor Nick Cole. And then for the directors and managers, I have Mr. Sean Broadbent, the Director of Works and Services, Miss Justine Linley, Director of Sustainable Development, Mr. John Kelly, Manager of Assets Planning, Mr. Lyle Bond, Manager Environment and Emergency, Mr. Aaron Moyne, Manager of Planning and Building Services, Mr. Chris Asenjo, Manager of Governance and Civic Support, Miss Jackie Thomas, Manager of Finance, Mr. Peter Rogers, Manager of Works, and last but not least, my CEO, Mr. David Ray. First off, we'll do the prayer. So we ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us, who serve as leaders, to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interest of the people, culture, and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and the Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past, present and emerging. Mr. CEO, do we have any apologies today?
Madam Mayor, there are no apologies for this evening's meeting.
And do we have any declarations of conflict of interest?
Madam Mayor, 2 declarations of conflict of interest have been received. The first is from Councillor Bogles in relation to item 8.1. That's in regards to a planning permit application for Douglas Track, Scotts Creek. And one from yourself in relation to item 9.18, special charge scheme for Cooties River Road.
Thank you very much. Do we have confirmation of the minutes for the 28th of May? Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Cole, do I have a seconder? Councillor Canady, thank you. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Do we have any deputations or presentations tonight, Mr. CEO?
Madam Mayor, there are no deputations this evening or presentations.
Thank you. There's no committee reports today, so we're on to planning reports. So I'll ask Mr. Councillor Vogels to step out of the room, if you may, please. He's not trusted to leave by himself. So we'll move on to agenda item 8.1, planning permit application PP 2023/152, 2-lot subdivision of 65 Dokes Track, Scotts Creek. Mr. Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I present Council with this report for planning permit application PP 2023/152. The application seeks approval for a 2-lot subdivision, which will excise the dwelling from the balanced land, and the basis for the subdivision is for the landowner to retain the existing dwelling and sell off the balanced farmland. The land has an area of approximately 40 hectares and contains a single dwelling, several sheds, and the balanced land is used for agriculture. Land within the area predominantly is used for agriculture associated with dairy and beef production, with an adjoining property to the southwest also having been purchased and used for timber production. Proposal seeks to create Lot 1 of 1.5 hectares containing the existing dwelling and sheds, Lot 2 of 38.37 hectares being the balanced farmland. Public notice of the application has been given and one objection has been received, which has raised issues regarding the ongoing purchase of farmland within the area for timber production, loss of productive farmland, and the approach undertaken in the sale and purchase of land, which itself isn't considered a relevant planning consideration. Key issues raised by the objection have been considered in the planning application and its assessment. The assessment of the application has been undertaken and focuses on policy direction within the Corangamite planning scheme, which discourages the creation of small rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas where they raise potential issues regarding the continuation of agriculture and future land use conflict. The Corangamite planning scheme itself discourages the creation of rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas, which might hamper or restrict agricultural uses. Whilst the proposed subdivision may enable the existing dwelling to be sold and separated directly from agriculture. A high level of weight should be given to the protection of agricultural land over housing needs. The application itself also lacks adequate justification, and the current and future land use does not warrant the subdivision of the land. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, do I have a seconder? Councillor Castrone? Sure. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor. We have had a lot of these types of applications coming for us, and you know, we go out and visit and view the sites wherever we can, talk to the persons involved, and you know, I think we do take the time to get to know as much as we possibly can about these applications and to understand them properly, and obviously we take advice from our planning department as well. But it doesn't really change the issues around our municipal planning scheme and our policy planning framework. Those issues remain the same. We do need to be very careful about protecting agricultural land and the type of development that occurs around the Shire. The risks arising from this kind of an application are weighty and they're real. We do have that issue of fragmentation of rural land, amenity expectations, the possibility of conflicting land use. All those things remain. We also have the problem, if we were to approve a lot of these applications, we would have the problem of urban activities occurring in agricultural zones. So one of our key issues here with these types of applications is to manage subdivision around the Shire to reduce those negative impacts and obviously cumulative outcomes that might occur if that sort of subdivision was to happen. I don't think there's anything really compelling about this application, and I absolutely support the recommendation that's before us.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Castrone?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we do go out and visit these properties and have a look and see what the issues are. And this particular property is certainly in an isolated location on beautiful land, prime agricultural land, and that's what we're trying to protect through this policy. And the concern is, I can appreciate that the applicant intends on living on the property and may do so for a significant number of years, but it is a small lot, just over 3 acres, I think, which we would be creating. And the issues sometimes aren't apparent, obviously, when with the existing tenant of the dwelling, but if the property is sold on and you get someone who has no connection with the land, whether it's dairying or used for cattle rearing or indeed timber, and that's when we're going to have some issues about right to farm, and there certainly are real issues, and that's the reason I'm supporting the recommendation from our planners. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrone. Is there any more commentary on this recommendation before us? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? No one? Motion carried. Thank you. You can get Councillor Vogels back in the room. Thank you. We'll move on to item 8.2, planning permit application PP 2023/175, a 2-lot subdivision at 230 Guys Road in Corangamite. Thank you, Mr Moyne.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Apologies. I present Council with this report on planning permit application PP 2023/175. This is another application for a 2-lot subdivision excision of dwelling, which will excise the dwelling from the balanced farmland. The owner of the property wishes to retain the land for timber production, being a blue gum plantation, and sell the dwelling itself as they have no direct use for it. The current plantation development notice is in place on site with the blue gum plantation, which is being currently established at the moment. Subject land has an area of approximately 67 hectares, contains a single dwelling, sheds and a former dairy, with balanced land previously used for agriculture as a dairy farm and now being established as a blue gum plantation. Surrounding land uses are associated predominantly with agriculture, and there is an existing timber plantation located directly south of the site too. The proposed subdivision seeks to create Lot 1 of 1.95 hectares containing the house, outbuildings and the former dairy, and Lot 2 of 66 hectares of balanced farmland to be used for timber production. Public notice of this application has also been given with one objection received, raising issues regarding provision of financial advantage, no housing benefits achieved by the subdivision, precedents, impact on traditional farming practices, establishment of the rural residential use and environmental impacts. Those issues raised in the objection have been considered within the assessment of the application. Again, the planning assessment of the application has been undertaken and focuses on the policy direction within the planning scheme, discouraging the creation of small rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas. The Corangamite planning scheme discourages the creation of rural residential lots, and whilst the proposed subdivision may enable the existing dwelling again to be sold and separated directly from agriculture, high level consideration should be given to the protection of agricultural land. The current and future land use also doesn't justify the need for this subdivision and will lead to land use change where there's greater value in maintaining the property as an entire entity. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Beard, Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Mayor. And again, we loaded up in cars and went out and visited this particular application, and it's unfortunately not likely to meet our planning, or doesn't meet our planning requirements. And I believe that in a climate where we are in demand for agricultural housing, there are other opportunities for the proponents to have those houses maintained and used for accommodation. It directly impacts on the, or can potentially impact on the right to farm. We are obliged to look after prime agricultural land, and we need to restrict land usage that may impact on agriculture. So for all of these reasons, I have to support the officer's recommendation here.
No worries, thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, and completely agree with Councillor Hickey. I think our planning officers, thank you, Mr. Moyne, go through such a stringent assessment, and they've really been put under the pump, particularly in the last 12 months in regards to this, the applications that have been coming forward. There is consistency there, but we do still make our decisions based on individual applications. But we do need to remember that we're here to protect the planning scheme and will support the Corangamite planning scheme, that is. And I certainly can't, like the others, can't support this one, particularly knowing we said about, Councillor Hickey said about prime agricultural land, but it's just so valuable. And once we start carving these up, I mean, we lose that forever potentially. The decisions we make are for generational purposes as well. So we've really got to be mindful of that. So knowing the amount of work our officers put into these assessments, and they do continue to ask and work with the applicants throughout the process. And like the one before, there may not have been sufficient information, but they do their best. And that, again, that's why we go and have a look at them firsthand as well, to get as much information as we can. And as I said, I just can't I can't support this one like I haven't the others. So
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Is there any more commentary, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to officers' reports. Item 9.1, the budget 2024-2025. Ms Thomas.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report is to present the 24-25 budget, including the fees and charges scheduled for consideration and adoption. The budget contains $69 million of commitments and which includes $28 million of projected capital works. These capital works include $8.5 million for road upgrades and renewal and $11 million for the completion of the Port Campbell Town Revitalisation Project. Following the release of the draft budget to the public, there has been a change to the budget to include a $300,000 project for Camperdown and terrain structure plans. This is being funded through an increase in financial assistance grants and removal of the Unlocking Housing program for $40,000 and a $50,000 additional business assistance grants project. This results in a zero change to the overall budget. This budget has been based on a 2.75 increase in rates and charges, which is in line with state government's fair go rate system, or otherwise known as the rate cap. It is well below still the current CPI rates. The waste management charge is also set to increase by 5.35%. The increase reflects the impact of inflation on the costs associated with the service and includes the introduction of the new curbside glass collection service. Overall, this is a responsible budget given the external factors, particularly around the current high inflation, and aims to keep council in a financially sustainable position in the future. Following the release of the draft budget in May, 7 responses were received from the community and covered items such as roads, footpath, the Port Campbell Town Project, and theatres. These submissions were considered by councillors and officers and helped inform the budget which is presented tonight. This report is recommending that the 2024-25 budget, including the proposed rate differentials and the fees and charges schedule, be adopted by council. Mayor, the recommendations are before you.
Thank you, Ms Thomas. Council, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the report. I do think that the key is that our 24-25 budget is maintaining council's stable financial position, and that's something that we always need to work towards and need to be very mindful of every time there is a budget prepared. And that stable financial position, I think, is becoming more important because council, like all communities, is feeling the challenges of the current economic climate and the pressure of decreasing state and federal grants and also the rate capping system. And all of that, just tightens, makes it the parameters tighter, and it does limit our options and capacity. So, when we're preparing our budget, we have to be very mindful of those limitations. But I think too, in our deliberations on it, that we remained mindful of the core responsibilities that council has to our community, and we've prioritised the continued provision of high quality services. We've met our statutory obligations. In all of that, we're planning 28.57 million of capital works, and that still includes a very strong focus on our maintenance and upgrades to our local roads, and that I think is in the order of 8.3 million. Those building upgrades, we also have building upgrades and renewal. That's, the Trang Civic Hall is an example of that. We're renewing the floor there, and I think we've got some grant funding for that today. I think that Ms Lindley mentioned to us today. And also, of course, our big project, the Port Campbell revitalisation, town centre revitalisation, is planned for completion at the end of this year. So that's obviously taking a fair portion of budget, but I think it's going to be an amazing outcome for the Shire as well. There were some amendments noted in the report, and I am happy that those amendments included the adjustment that incorporates the Camperdown and Trang structure plans into the operating budget, and I do appreciate councillors your support for the alternate motion that went up last meeting in May. I think that's going to be an amazing project and super important. It's a $300,000 project, but it is an enabler, and any expenditure of an enabling nature, I think, is helping our communities to be prepared and creates opportunity and promotes growth. And, that's something that we need to be thinking about in the way that we manage our revenue. Of course, there have been some increases in the rates and charges, as was mentioned. We've got the rate cap. We've used our allocation according to what the state government allowed. I know that, of course, rates and charges quite often are a vexed issue, but they do form a vital source of revenue for us to deliver the services and the asset renewal and upgrades that support our community. So I think that we've landed in a pretty good place. We do have quite a high capital expenditure planned. We're budgeting for a forecast surplus of 3.87 million. We remain debt free, and I think particularly in this current environment, I think that's a real advantage for us not to have a commitment to a debt, and the interest that would have had to have been paid were that the case. So I think being debt free gives us some freedom with the way that we are able to manage our budget and be able to give more of that back to the community. So another thing I've always been proud of with our finance team, I think that they do really well, is protecting and preparing for future commitments and large-scale projects through the transfers to reserve. Sometimes you just don't know what's ahead. I think that's good planning. It's just that good fallback position that may well be called upon sometimes. I know those funds are allocated, of course, but it still puts us in a much safer position to maintain that stability and responsible budgeting that we've been recognised for over the years. So thank you, finance team, for bringing the budget together. I won't apologise for the extra work we made you do when we asked for some changes in the original draft budget that came before us. But I think that we've got a good, stable, well-planned budget in front of us, and I do support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And look, I couldn't agree more with Councillor Canady, and I knew full well when she moved the motion that she would have an amazing summary of it. But I'd just like to just step back a little bit from the actual nuts and bolts of it. $64 million budget, a $69 million budget doesn't come around easily. And I was just thinking before, with a planning permit, we drive to Timburna, we drive to Lismore or Skipton. To present this budget in the same term, it'd be like driving to Cooktown and back. There's so much amount of work. So to Jackie Thomas, well done, and to David Harrington, I'm sure he's watching on tonight from overseas. Well done. It's a great budget, and one that I'm very, very proud to have adopted. And like any other household budget or our farm budgets, we know full well that inflation is having a dramatic effect on the way we go about business. The costs are skyrocketing daily. The cost of energy is continually going up. And so it is with that fiscal responsibility that our finance team exercise that make this budget a very real document that can actually be achieved. And I'm certain that by this time next year, we'll be able to say that the budget has been a good recommendation of what was going to happen. So I'm delighted to be able to second this motion too, Mayor, and I'm very proud of the document that sits before us.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other commentary? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the finance team on getting the budget in order and being at $69 million, as was mentioned. And I note with a lot of interest that we're limited to 2.75 under what they call the fair go rate system. So that's our increase or rate capping. However, I note that 5.75 is the increase in the waste charge, which we collect and pay to the state government. And fire service levy is 23%, which we collect and also goes to the government. So we get nothing out of that, but they seem to be able to put their rates and charges up, especially 23%, sort of nearly Argentinian style. And we have to put it on our rate charge and collect it. So people look at it, if we're doing the hard yards, we get no benefit out of it. So that's just my little input. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Beard?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Look, not much more to add, but I will just say I've noticed with interest that some of the commentary coming back in has been somewhat around our spending and that why we do certain projects. And I think it's worthwhile mentioning that a lot of the time how we do projects is because of the opportunity we get with the grant funding that we often receive at a federal and state level. So even though the community may not understand that, it's worth mentioning that we'd love to throw all, 50-60 million dollars towards roads, but that's not what we're allowed to do. We've got to make sure we hold on to all the services that all of our community want to have and expect. And I can recall from about 10 years ago, Councillor Castrone, when we had to rein in our spending, we actually had to cut projects because we had to fund some shortfalls through the superannuation fund. And since then, every council we've had has been really diligent and lived within their means through really prudent guidance from the finance team, which hasn't changed. And we've got our reserve set now that when that rainy day comes, we've actually got the good finance there ready to go. So our ratepayers shouldn't have to see something like that happen again. So we really do stick within a pretty tight budget. And we do say it's like we have at home, just like living within our means. And it's all been acknowledged before, but I think it is worth noting that as much as we would like to spend more in certain areas too, there is boundaries. And we take the opportunities where we can. And I think this budget particularly is quite well-rounded in terms of the, the variety and the broadness of which, and the diversity, I guess you could say, in which each of the communities are going to benefit from. So, again, like the others, thanks to the finance team for, and the entire organisation at the end of the day. I know we said it when we released the draft budget, but by the time it gets to us to deliberate before we even release the draft budget, so much work and business cases and consultation between staff has already gone on, so that shouldn't go unnoticed.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary, councillors? No other commentary? Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just will note that the last few budgets we've had a fair bit of money getting carried over for the Port Campbell project, and that'll be knocked over this year. So we won't see that rolling on again. It'll be all expended, and Port Campbell will be knocked over. Big fan of rate capping myself because I pay a lot of rates, and it forces council to live within our means to an extent. The problem is that the money that should come in from state and federal government doesn't come in to lift up the excess. Because I see of our actual rates that we do collect, 50% of it is from farm, and that's with us reducing it down to 87% on differential rates. So still 50% of all money coming as rates comes off farm. So just like to see federal and state government put in the money that they probably should put in, and probably with a lot less strings attached, so they can be spent in the local community where the community wants it and needs it, rather than where it's forced to be spent by the higher levels of government because that's where they want it to.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Is there any more commentary? No more commentary. I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.2, Council Plan Review and Annual Action Plan 2024-2025. Mr. Ray.
Madam Mayor, thank you. And through you, the recommendation for you this evening is to adopt the annual action plan for the 2024-2025 financial year. It follows the last agenda item in terms of providing a connection from the budget back to the council plan. And in development of the annual action plan, a review of the council plan was also undertaken, and the council plan is considered to remain relevant. So, Mayor, there's 61 actions that are associated with the annual action plan for next financial year. They're effectively delivering the outcomes of the budget you've just adopted. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrone, do I have a seconder? Councillor Beard, Councillor Castrone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as Mr. Ray has said, the annual action plan is tied in very much into the council plan and obviously into the budget. I think what the 61 actions does is it gives a snapshot into the range of council activities. And when we're talking about, people talk about core business of council, roads, rates and rubbish. But when you see what council, number of services that we do deliver, and there's possibly over 80, it's quite incredible. And, there's the advocacy for our road network, obviously for funding for local roads, but also the arterial state road network, weed control on our roadsides, telecommunications. We're looking at capital delivery on projects, big infrastructure projects such as roads and footpaths and much used sporting facilities, many of them on Crown land, which is state responsibility. Climate adaptation, economic development, our Grow and Prosper strategy and framework, which is coming along really well. Tourism services, childcare, maternal and child health. It goes on and on and on, the range of services council does deliver. So reading the annual action plan is a really good guide of what council does with the rate dollars. So I'm pleased to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Beard?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I'm assuming that's your coffee table book, is it, Councillor Castrain, for everyone to read when they come over?
Yes, that's right, the annual action plan.
I just wanted to make note, and there's actually a question for Mr. CEO, if that's okay, but knowing that this continues to link, how important it is that it links with our council plan, the direction that we set right from our council term, and also being mindful of the delivery capabilities of the organisation and how that evolves from year to year. So it's really important that we do continue to review those and not lose sight of what we set out to achieve as an organisation, and that it still all correlates, and that expectation, pure transparency to the community with the annual action plan. My question is, and this is probably naive of me, Mr. CEO, you're looking at me thinking what you're going to ask, because how many elections have I been through? But the council plan, because a new council obviously will be inducted by the end of the year, and then the new council plan has to be adopted within that certain time frame, legislative time frame. The annual action plan, will that change depending on the change to the council plan? Or is it pretty much we're setting the tone for the next council plan?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor Beard, thank you for your question. I'll attempt to answer.
Great question.
It's a great question. So effectively, your current council plan is a plan that takes the organisation, this council and the new council through to June 2025 of next year, similarly with the current annual action plan. The annual action plan doesn't set the tone for an incoming council. But effectively, the council must adopt a budget under legislation, must also prepare a council plan of a 4-year term through to June next year. The incoming council will then have the opportunity to develop their own council plan, which will become effective from the 1st of July of next year. It is a transitional plan, essentially, like this budget. It's a transitional budget. It's the nature of election cycles, and we'll work with the incoming council to determine their priorities and to set their council plan, which I'll then get to shape and format as I see fit for their 4-year term. Thanks, Mayor. I trust that answers your question, Councillor.
Yeah, and sorry, it was with it's definitely without notice. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Beard?
No, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Is there any more commentary on the recommendation for us, Councillor? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Move on to item 9.3, Community Satisfaction Survey 2024. Mr. Senjo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Corangamite Shire Council participated in the 2024 statewide local government community satisfaction survey. The survey provides results on the community satisfaction with council across a range of performance measures, which is compared against council's past performance, as well as the performance of participating councils across the state and similar large rural shire group averages. The results identify the best performing areas of council and areas for improvement. Council participation also supports statutory reporting obligations and is required by law. A total of 400 interviews were conducted between the 1st of June 2023 and the 18th of March 2024, with gender, age and location demographics considered. Questions asked as part of the survey covered 28 areas of council service, ranging from customer service to management of assets, services and decision making. In total, Corangamite Shire Council earned an overall score of 64, down slightly from last year's score of 66, but well above the comparative councils in the large rural council group, which scored an average of 50, and the statewide council average, which was 54. Some areas of council's best performance for the year was customer service with a score of 76, emergency and disaster management with a score of 75, and the appearance of public areas with a score of 74. Some areas the survey pointed as areas for council to improve were unsealed roads with a score of 36, sealed local roads with a score of 40, and slashing and weed control with a score of 49. Madam Mayor, it is recommended the Council acknowledges the 2024 satisfaction survey and make available results for publication.
Thank you, Mr. Senjo. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Councillor Castrain?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And some people say the community satisfaction survey is a waste of time, but what it does do is it gives us a good indication between elections, I guess, about how the organisation is travelling. And I think that compared to large rural shires, we really punch above our weight and do a great job. Can I just throw a big shout out to all our staff, because we've got customer service, coming up the top again. It's our number one service, and it's not just the girls, the ladies on the front desk that answer the phones, although I think they probably do carry a fair burden of it. But it's all our staff who are public facing is really important. So the impressions they've made have obviously been good, and I thank them for their service. But right across the board, we've got some great scores there. We realise the condition of the sealed local roads could be better, and as we say that we think a lot of the time people get confused with what's a local road and what's a state road or state responsibility in the arterial road network. As people say to me, I just want to drive on the road without potholes. And I know the state is really struggling to make that happen. I drove up Darlington Road the other day on a bitumen road. It's absolutely shocking. Turned down Takara Lane, which is a gravel road in Corangamite Shire, and just could easily, drive at the speed limit. It was in great condition. So we do take messages. We take this survey very seriously, and I certainly encourage people, if they do get a phone call in the future, it's usually around about February, to take the call, and we value your opinions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I completely agree with Councillor Castrain on all the things she mentioned. It does give us a snapshot of what's happening, how we're going, things, so things don't fall through the cracks, hopefully, and we can keep on top of them. And congratulations to the staff. It's always a good thing to see that. It's always a high-ranking number, and it means people are happy to come in and talk to them and hopefully get the response they want or need to fix their problem. I agree the roads are a bit of a problem, especially the roads that we get credited with, which aren't always ours. So makes it a bit harder to, we keep pushing to keep it get better, but not always happening. So I congratulate the staff on doing a good job and keeping the Shire running along. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any more commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to 9.4, curbside landfill recyclables, glass and food organics and garden organics collection policy 2024. My God, that's a mouthful. Mr. Bond, all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is for councillors to approve the reviewed policy. It relates to the curbside collection services provided to our community. The policy provides a framework to guide council officers in the administration and delivery of the curbside contract, which commenced in 2023. The policy also assists residents and customers in making service requests and understanding how that contract is administered. The reviewed policy addresses changes in the Victorian Government law, which refers to the circular economy legislation, and the needs to align to the new glass services which are being provided to our community. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So this is reasonably procedural, but it catches us up with the changes in the system, government requirements plus changes to where glass collection and keeping up with every other type of change in wording that needs to go through it. There's red stuff written all through it, so there's a lot of changes, but I think they're generally just words, but I will read them one by one. I think we've got a few hours.
I think I was just kidding, so I'm happy to move that we accept that.
Thank you, councillor Vogels. Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Mayor. Roads, rates and rubbish. It sounds pretty easy when I first heard about these three words, but my goodness, the more I get into each one of those, the the bigger discussion. We're happy to support this recommendation. Yes, there's a lot to do around rubbish. There's a lot of legislation. There's a lot of considerations. The circular economy has certainly placed another spotlight on our rates, on our rubbish disposal. Yes, there is a lot of changes within the policy, and I'm familiar with most of them. So I'm very, very happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Hickey. Is there any other commentary? Yeah, councillor Constrain?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, can I just ask Mr Bond a couple of questions without notice, which I'm sure you'll be able to handle.
Through,
Yeah, because the things that people have just asked me recently, and that is container deposit drop off for Camperdown. Is there one planned, and do we know if it's coming?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there is a container deposit location planned for Camperdown. There has been some minor delays with that, but the service providers are working on it.
Certainly, thank you. It's just to note that there is one coming eventually. And also, with our new bin system, we've all got our snazzy purple lidded bins, I'm pleased to say. I hope that's the case. We're going to be getting bin clips, I think, on the recycle bins. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. So bin clips will be rolled out. But we've separated the two processes to try and get the glass service running. We'll then go for the bin clips for the recycling for those windy days that we do seem to have in Corangamite.
Always on recycling night, I think, Mr Bond, but thank you very much.
Any other commentary?
Yes.
Yes, councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing, and maybe I've missed this in the last policy, so Mr Bond might be able to help me as well. It's saying that the policy now includes direction on the provision of waste exemption cards. Are they new, or was that something?
No, through you, Madam
contained?
Mayor. So we've always provided waste exemption cards. We've adjusted some of the wording just to be clear on who's able to receive them. But there's certainly been something we've provided for those opportunity shops and other community organisations that provide certain services to the community.
Oh, thank you, Mr Bond. And now I look pretty dreadful because I haven't read the previous policy properly.
You just missed that bit.
Thank you, councillor Canady. Is there any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.5, special rates and charges policy review. Mr Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, this report seeks council adoption to the reviewed special rates and charges policy. Policy outlines council's process for establishing special charge schemes to raise contributions for property owners who receive special benefits from infrastructure improvements, whether they be new footpaths, curb and channel, or sealing a gravel road. The policy outlines the extent of council's contribution to a special charge schemes, which will continue to depend on the benefit of the upgrade to the wider community compared to the special benefits to property owners. Council will also continue to ensure apportionment of costs between owners remains fair and equitable. And also, as outlined in the policy, consultation will continue to play an important part with the development of special charge schemes, with the practice of on-site meetings and written surveys taken with owners prior to the statutory process of the special charge scheme taking place. So it is recommended that the council adopt the special rates and charges policy as presented.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Constrain, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey, thank you. Councillor Constrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, and even though there's only minor changes to the policy, I will say that special charge policy has been in place for a number of years, and I'm really pleased and grateful to the residents who are abutting, new footpaths, curb and channeling, widening, sealing of roads to come in partnership with us. And the policy sets it out quite clearly. The minimum that council will contribute is 35%, but in some cases it can be a much higher figure depending on the community benefit. I will say there is quite a thorough process going through. We have an initial meeting with the residents to find out whether or not they think the scheme should go ahead, and that just gives us an idea and certainly eases the burden on Mr. Kelly's team, the assets team, in preparing documentation if a scheme's going to fall over at the last minute. So that's certainly a really important part. We have two schemes tonight that are coming back to council, which have been finalised, and it's great to see the outcome. And I know that the residents of Cameron Street, I think, are seeing a certain, significant uptake of people using the footpaths, which is absolutely fantastic. So, Mr. Councillor Canadi's reported that there's been lots of people out and about, and that's what we want to see. So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Strang. Councillor Hickey?
No, thank you, Mayor. Yes, very happy to second this motion. The special charger scheme gives us the ability to be able to complete works that perhaps otherwise would not fit in the budget. And quite often, as John Kelly would tell you, the opportunity also arises to do other significant works at the same time, so that there's a bit of a windfall as far as, or a bit of a gain as far as the actual works that are being done. It's a great scheme, so I'm very happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Is there any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.6, South West Coast ICT Alliance Joint Venture Extension. Mr. Ray.
Mayor, thank you, and through you, the report recommends that council extend an existing agreement it has with the councils of Warren Shire and Warren City Council. The existing agreement was entered into in October of 2022. Its purpose was really to facilitate a project funded through the Rural Council's Transformation Program. The councils would be aware that $4.5 million of state funding was received for that purpose. The agreement requires council to give 12 months notice of its intention to extend or otherwise. And so the recommendation before council this evening proposes that. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Council, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Honestly thought I'd be fighting everyone for that moving of that recommendation, but through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. Look, this is better. I think it's easy to say it's more well known now as Coastal Connect because the original naming of this project is quite large. So it's good that we can small that down to Coastal Connect. I think this just validates what we already know, what this project's going to achieve, and it always comes down to cost savings, efficiencies, sharing of resources. All of it just makes sense. When we were funded this significant, this multi-million-dollar project, was because it made sense. And to see the three councils working together in collaboration on such a project, I think our residents across those three shires should be really proud. We can already see the difference. We get the regular updates, but I think the staff more so are probably being able to realise what's being able to be achieved once it's getting to this, this adoption stage. But to really give it its length, we need to provide the time, and that's why we're allowing that. I'm supportive of that extension. I would think, and I'm looking at Mr. Ray, around, are we the last piece of the puzzle to go in if Moyne and Warrnambool already adopted their extensions, I believe?
Madam Mayor, through you, Warren City Council have considered extension and have given approval to extend. Warren Shire Council were meeting today to consider the extension. I'm not aware of the outcome of that decision. I haven't been advised otherwise, so I'm assuming that has been approved.
And sorry if I'm talking out of turn, but I mean, these three councils work collaborative really well together. So it just makes sense. And this is a really exciting project that I know a lot of people across the state, particularly the state government, are looking favourably upon, being such an innovative project. So fully support the extension.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey?
Thanks, Mayor. Coastal Connect is working particularly well. It's come together quite extraordinarily well, really, with very few bumps in it. So I'm very happy to support the extension of 5 years which will take us to 2030, and I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Is there any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.7, contract 2024-005, panel consultancy services. Ms Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to award a panel contract for the provision of consultancy services for a 2-year period from the 1st of July 24 to the 30th of June 2026. Council has invited tenders from suitably experienced and qualified consultancies and contractors, and 98 submissions were received through this process. 71 have been assessed as suitable for inclusion in the panel across 10 categories, and the categories range from engineering, architecture, environmental services to strategic planning and quantity surveying. A panel provides the opportunity for officers to seek quotations and requests for tender from the panel members for projects as they arise during the year. A secondary procurement process in accordance with Council's procurement policy will occur before any consultant is contracted to undertake specific work. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrone, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole? Councillor Castrone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it just makes sense that if we have gone down this path, and if we do need somebody in those areas, that we can go out to a second procurement. So happy for it to go through. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, caught me on the hop. Thank
Sorry.
you, Councillor Castrone. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Castrone. There's a rather long list of all sorts of different things, and no one can be expected to be across all of them. And it's always good to have some outside thoughts on some of these things too. So it's quite a long list of hydrological, environmental monitoring. There's town planning, open services, etc. So it's a long list of all sorts of things. So I'm more than happy to endorse it.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Is there any more commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to 9.8, contract 2025-006 for long-term dozer hire for landfill. Mr Bond.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of the report is for Council to consider awarding the contract for the long-term dozer hire at Corangamite Regional Landfill. The waste-specific dozer is required to undertake construction and waste management tasks, which include movement of the waste on a daily basis, compost material being moved on site, haul road construction and maintenance, movement and trimming of materials to design levels, and construction and maintenance of landfill waste cells. The tender was publicly advertised. At the conclusion of that, there was 11 submissions. The submissions included a range of machines being offered, including both different brands and different sizes. The ability to dry hire a dozer, which is fitted with waste management guarding and blades that are specific for GPS capabilities on site, allows the landfill to continue uninterrupted in all weather and also truck access to the tipping areas. At the conclusion of the evaluation process, it was determined that William Adams Cat Rental Services, their submission provided the best offering for council. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Bond. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Cole, Councillor Castrone. Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Kennedy. Sorry, apologies. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I do love a big yellow tractor with tracks. It does a lot of stuff and it just makes the landfill work a lot easier and more efficient and being able to shift this stuff. The only way you're ever going to do it is with a big machine, and big yellow ones are really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not too much more to say except that I do trust the tender process that our team work through. They're really diligent about it. They check the figures very carefully and, really also careful with how they assess the tenders. So I'm very satisfied with that process. So I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Is there any more commentary on the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to. Oh, sorry, Councillor Beard. Sorry.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. And this is because I did contact Mr Bond in regards to this, and I think if anyone else out there would probably be wondering why we hiring one instead of buying one. And so I had a good discussion with Mr. Bonbet, and I was satisfied with his response, and that, not only the cost of buying one, but it's also the cost in maintenance on their big machines, and I guess the capability of our team when it's so specialised as well. So I guess if anyone else out there was wondering why we wouldn't just buy one, that I thought was a great response. And what's been said is our tender panel do a pretty significant job in I guess dotting every I and crossing every T when it comes to these procurements. So I was satisfied with that.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.9, contract 2025001, provision of electrical services 2024. Mr. Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to the contract for the provision of an electrical services panel for the council for a 3-year period. The tender process was undertaken in accordance with council's procurement policy. 5 submissions were received and evaluated against a predetermined criteria, including fixed price for hourly rates, out-of-hour rates, and travel costs. As this is a preferred panel, there is no guarantee of work or spend for any proposed contractors, and a secondary procurement process will be undertaken. The evaluation panel has recommended 5 electrical contractors, and they are CW Electrical, Dickens Electrical, Hickey Electrical, Illick Electrical Services, and Murfitt and Whiting Electrical. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Broadbent. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels, Councillor Hickey.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. We're very happy that these electrical services have been covered by the 5 businesses that are mentioned here, all reputable and all meet the criteria. And I also would endorse what Councillor Kennedy says. The selection process is very thorough, and so the awarding of these contracts or these contractors is something that's not done lightly. So very happy to move the recommendation. It'll see us through to June 2027.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. A little bit on hand at some stage being an electrician as well, but they're all highly skilled and highly valued people in the community, all our electricians here, and they all do good work, and good to see they all pass with flying colours and all going through, and it's kind of need a lot to choose from, because when you need an electrician in a hurry, you need an electrician in a hurry, and normally hard to come by these days.
Very true, Councillor Vogels. Any other, Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and no pun intended, but this is just a plug out to, that was funny, wasn't it? To Dickinson Electrical, Dickinson Electrical, who is predominantly a Cobden known business, and then you've got KMS, who is predominantly a Camperdown known business, have now joined forces strategically to help support their apprentices, which is all about what we love about, keeping our youth local and growing our own. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those 2 businesses that have now come together for the benefit of those that they're bringing through the ranks. So, and I think there will be a name change for them, but I would say when they've gone through the procurement process or the tender process, that was still their initial names. But yeah, stay tuned on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Beard, for that update. Really appreciate it. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.10, contract 2025002, provision of plumbing services 2024. Mr. Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Similar to the electrical services panel contract, this report relates to a contract provision of plumbing services for a plumbing services panel for the council for a 3-year period. The tender process was undertaken in accordance with council's procurement policy. 5 submissions were received and evaluated against the predetermined criteria, including fixed hourly rates, out-of-hours rates, and travel costs. As this is a preferred panel, there is no guarantee of work or spend for any of the proposed contractors, and a secondary procurement process will be undertaken. The evaluation panel has recommended the following 5 plumbing contractors, which is Dutton Plumbing, Pool Plumbing, Molan Plumbing and Civil, Warrnambool Emergency Plumbing, and Sargent Plumbing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Broadbent. Council, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Castrain, Councillor Hickey.
Very similar to the one before. Congratulations on the people who, or the business who have moved their business forward to come and help us with the plumbing throughout the Shire. Again, I believe the tender process and the way these are awarded is very diligent, or diligence done. So we're happy to extend this to 30th of June 2027.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey, Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I think it's really important that we've got plumbers from right across the Shire. It certainly gives us the best choice, the most economical and efficient way of getting our works done. So a good range of plumbers right across and beyond Corangamite.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Any other commentary? If not, I put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.11, contract 20250004, supply and loading or supply and delivery of road marking materials. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I'd like to present this report for the purpose of the report of the award of this contract. Supply and loading or supply and delivery of road making materials. This report seeks council to approve the award of contract supply, loading or supply and delivery of road making materials for a period of 2 years, commencing the 1st of July 2025, expiring the 30th of June 2027. The Corangamite Shire road network consists of approximately 915 kilometres of sealed road and 1,228 kilometres of unsealed road across an area of 4,400 square kilometres. An extensive construction and maintenance program for the road network is developed annually, and the supply of road making material from external suppliers is critical in the delivery of annual road programs across the Shire. Tender submissions are certified for contracts, supply and loading or supply and delivery of road making materials from registered quarries. The tender was advertised through Epicure and Warrnambool Standard newspaper during the month of April with a closing date of 6th of May. 8 tender submissions were received for the contract. 5 out of 8 suppliers of road making materials in the Shire in the past. 5 of the tender submissions were of the previous contract list of 2022-24. All tender submissions were assessed against the evaluation criteria. Madam Mayor, through you, I would like to consider the recommendations to award this council award contract for supply and loading or supply and delivery of road making materials to DE Quarry Solutions, Green Valley Line Company Proprietary Limited, Wholesome Australia Proprietary Limited, Nevis Brothers Australia Proprietary Limited, Monshire Council, O.R.L. Blakes Proprietary Limited, Titan Willows Trading as WA Mullins and Sons. Madam Mayor, through you, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Council, so there is a recommendation before us. Is there a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, Councillor Cole. Thank you, Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no reason not to support this recommendation. It's pleasing that we did get quite a number of tenderers and that we've been able to appoint 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, no, 2, 4, 6, 7, there, sorry, counting. And they would probably be carting materials out of a lot of different quarries. So I suppose that gives us, options on the various materials that would be required for certain road making purposes. So I think it's a good outcome and I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, as Councillor Canady said, that when you're making a road, you do need a lot of different materials, and these tenders are spread across the Shire too, so we can hopefully get a bit of local is best without dragging the stuff for miles and miles and making it more expensive. So there's a good range of all sorts of different things there that are needed to make roads, and I have no problem moving this.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other commentary? Councillor Vogels.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Just note that you can see that the price increases in comparison to last year On average 8%, with 10 to 12% on a lot of it, increases in gravel prices. So we are seeing a lot more cost coming through because we do a lot of our expenditure is on roads. So we can see that the pressures coming in from the cost of just the basic gravels. Now there's also shortages coming up in gravel. Not enough pits, or we're getting to some pits getting to the end of their life. And we see that on farm where we're having to bring gravel in from a long way away. Cartage costs are going through the roof. And it'll be exactly the same for council, because you can't just grab gravel from the closest pit to where you're building a road, because it's very specific to what you want to use in a certain section to try and get it right. Don't always get it right, but council always tries their best to get it right. So keep an eye on this one for inflation through the roof.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.12, contract number 2025008, consultancy services for construction quality assurance inspector and geotechnical inspection and testing authority for cell 16, construction works, Corangamite Regional Landfill. Mr. Bond.
All right, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. So again, this report relates to Narrogin Landfill and the award of a contract. As you indicated, the services are for consultancy with the Construction Quality Assurance Inspector and Geotechnical Inspection and Testing Authority for Cell 16 specifically, which is one of the cells we're planning to construct in the next, or we're constructing in the next 12 months, but it will be constructed in two parts, an A and a B component. The submission process for these services were undertaken using the Municipal Association of Victoria vendor panel, which was from a contract that was previously subject to full tender process as a collaborative tender for local governments across Victoria. This process was in accordance with the Local Government Act and resulted in a large panel of potential suppliers. At the conclusion of the advertising period, there were two submissions, which were then considered by the evaluation panel. At the conclusion of that evaluation, it was determined that Sinversa provided the most appropriate service offering for Cell 16 works. Councillors, the recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I'm certainly not going to be arguing against the assessment on this contract. I have absolutely no idea. I have full confidence in the assessors, and once again, it's a significant amount of money that we spend at the landfill with the various regulations that are put on us, but it is what it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar vein, happy to support this. The consultancy around the quality assurance inspector, there's so many eyes watching what happens there through various levels of government and the community, that the quality assurance inspector is going to be very, very highly valued, and the geotechnical inspection and testing authority is also going to be very well regarded. So happy to second this.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Is there any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.13, supply one motor grader with master 3D GPS. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. The supply of one motor grader, Masters 3D with GPS platform. I would like to just talk a little bit about this. The purchase of this grader through the procurement process. The purpose of this report for Council to consider awarding contract 2024-006 for the purchase of one motor grader with 3D GPS mastless technology with attached roller as part of the strategy of the capital plant renewal program. Council's road network is one of the largest and most expensive asset classes. This proposal for a new grader will replace an existing grader and complement the current fleet of heavy plant. The grader is going to be primarily used for road construction works, however, it can be utilised for shoulder grading, gravel road resheeting, gravel road maintenance grading, and 4D road formation grading. An important element included in the specification was the 2D, 3D GPS master technology. The component allows the use of advanced technology, improving accuracy in road construction and ultimately reducing the cost of construction to council through increased efficiency. The tender was released through vendor panel in accordance with council's procurement policy. 3 submissions were received from 3 suppliers, and an evaluation of tenders was undertaken in accordance with the procurement policy. Madam Mayor, through you, I would like to recommend before you that all council award the contract to William Adams primarily for the Caterpillar 140 Joy Grader with Masters 2D, 3D GPS technology, roller attached.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Vogels, Councillor... See how the boys put their hands up? God, my goodness.
Big yellow machine.
Big yellow machines, we all get excited. Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, and certainly Mr. Rogers had me when he talked about the 2D, 3D shaftless or mastless technology. I thought that was pretty impressive. However, this is a significant asset of $775,000 worth of money, and it is something that will certainly increase the efficiency of the works team. And being a brand new grader, of course, hopefully would be subject to little maintenance as it is brand new. And the very fact that it's got William Adams, a big company, in behind it, gives me confidence that this is a correct choice for replacement of the old grader. So very happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, and probably you're purchasing a grader, whereas we were leasing the bulldozers, well, more so graders, and it will have a lot of maintenance because graders have a lot of maintenance, but they're more maintainable for as a machine than a bulldozer, which bulldozers, from the guys that have got them, that say to me, you don't make any money in a dozer, you're always fixing it, and plus you've got to get in the hellhole, it's called, trying to fix it there, and I'm sure nobody wants to get in there. So purchasing, and I thought I'd get my hand up as well because it's a Caterpillar 140 Joy machine, and who wouldn't want to put their hand up to buy a Joy machine? So I'm all in on the second one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I can't help but to mention this, but previous long-serving councillor Jeff Smith, who hopefully may be watching this, was a massive Caterpillar fan, and I think whenever we would approve, or there'd be a recommendation up, he was always like, oh, unless it's a Caterpillar, like it's no good. So it's nice to see that the evaluation team are still supportive of such a quality piece of machinery. I think we have to remember too, we're not the experts in this field by any means, and so we do put a lot of emphasis on the feedback from the tender process. But Ben Hinkley, who's a fleet team leader, he liaises, not only is he high up in terms of what these machines, how they come in and out of the depots, but he liaises with the guys that have to drive this, I should say the staff that have to drive them. And when joysticks first came in, there was some people liked the joysticks, some people didn't, and they wanted to stick with the steering wheel. So it's interesting to see how I guess technology has evolved in terms of our road making equipment even, and with that, it's not just our team sitting behind a steering wheel in a grader. I mean, these are big pieces of machinery. They're quite technical and do take a lot to keep on the roads and do what they do. So it is a shout out to our road making teams that use these big toys, as we call them. But as I said, it's nice to know that we're still able to stick with the favoured Caterpillar.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary? Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I completely agree with all the other comments that have been made. One of our biggest assets in the Shire is our roads, and we need to maintain them. And William Adams, makers of cat, I noticed we've got other cats in the fleet, and it's always good thing maintenance-wise and machinery operator-wise, that if you're using the same sort of machinery built by the same manufacturer, a lot of things are in the same place. So that everything sort of makes it operate a lot easier instead of having to relearn a machine every time you're in it. You know that the indicator's probably there, or that button because that is there, so it makes it a lot easier for people to operate, which is a good thing. And as I said, maintenance, if you're only operating one fleet of machinery, it's a lot easier with maintenance too. So getting parts and things like that are all usually just similar. So I have no problem reading this, and I do like a yellow machine. I've said that before.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Is there any other commentary? If not, recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We move on to item 9.14, Victorian Transmission Investment Framework, Renewable Energy Zone Community Benefit Submission. Mr Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I present Council with this report on the Renewable Energy Zone Community Benefits Plan. The Community Benefits Plan has been prepared by VicGrid and informed by their recent consultation undertaken in late 2023 and early 2024, with the plan released preceding preparation of the first planned Victorian Transmission Plan and Renewable Energy Zone declaration in mid-2025. A draft council submission has been prepared for council's consideration. The submission does note poor recent public consultation undertaken by VicGrid, which has provided limited opportunity for community awareness and participation. The submission also notes that aspects of the plan are positive, however, a significant shortfall exists in it being released before consultation on any further work on the Victorian Transmission Plan, Renewable Energy Zone designation, and strategic land use assessments. This creates significant uncertainty for both council and the community. The submission is broken into the following sections in response to the plan, being missing strategic direction, project funding and eligibility, and funding outcomes and governance. Councillors continue to remain involved in transmission planning and renewable energy generation development, with this submission on the Community Benefits Plan presenting an important opportunity to provide input and raise issues of interest to and concern to Corangamite Shire. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, so there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Kennedy, seconder. Councillor Castrone. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This kind of advocacy is extremely vital. The Rural Energy Zone and Vic Transmission Plan are going to have a very big impact in the agricultural areas, and we need to do all we can to inform the authorities of the issues that we'll raise in our area, and everything we can do to achieve a proper and fair outcome for our communities. I was disappointed that the engagement was announced late and limited the opportunity for the public to participate. And I did go over to the Terang engagement session, and I have to admit it was certainly very strange when the VicGrid personnel were so fixed on community benefits. So it was really hard to sort of be engaged with that when we've got little information at all about what VicGrid's plans are for transmission, which potentially could go through Corangamite Shire. So I think most of the people there were wanting to hear that information and wanting to know what to expect. So it was almost impossible to sort of engage with what they were requiring, feedback on community benefit when we didn't know what to measure it against. So that was quite disappointing how that engagement was conducted. I think the submission's been extremely well done. It addresses a lot of issues in detail that are very concerning. And I think it's essential that we do as much as we can in this space to support our communities and to try and get that good planning that I think has been lacking at this stage, and also more
report on food insecurity in Corangamite, which was only released last week. It is difficult to reconcile the evidence that our residents continue to face a daily challenge of consuming a well-balanced, nutritious diet with our strength as a shire in agriculture and food production. So by providing submission to the Legislative Council inquiry, Council can report the experiences and describe the impacts of food insecurity on our communities and offer potential considered solutions that are specific to this shire, its residents and farm businesses. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. Councillors, there is a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. And food security and food insecurity are probably completely different things, but very closely linked together as well. I'd like to thank Council for backing in agriculture as often as they do and as hard as they do, as well as backing in the those less fortunate in the community as well with the food insecurity side of things. Now, cost of living is something that's pretty much out of control, and if you're on the bottom end of the scale for affordability and stuff, you're really feeling the pinch, as well as on the other end for production of food in the country at the moment, and probably across nearly every agricultural sector. Cost of production is higher than we can. Well, the world market will not pay our cost of production. So our cost of production is just way too high. So we're getting massive amounts of imports dumped on the Australian market, which puts pressure on our local food producers, and it's pretty much pushing agriculture to the point of not a viable option as an industry, which we've seen through the loss of our car manufacturers and stuff over the time when you can't compete on the world market. Now, I think food might be a bit higher of importance as something you don't want to lose and then rely on imported stuff. And that's from perspective is, you don't want to be lined up in the bread queue saying, please, sir, can I have some more? Because you're not producing your own, and you're at the bottom of the list when other countries are getting short on food. So massive issues coming through, and I think government needs to step up at federal and state level and take a harder look at where we're running with this as a country. We could probably go on for hours about it, but it is on the way. There's massive drop over the last few years in our national milk pool, and I think we'll see it drop again a fair bit over the next 12 months. And it's just disappointing that the government last year did their own inquiries into food security and found dairy, which is, as our shire, our biggest agricultural producer in our shire is dairy, and they found that as most concerning, the most concerning moving forward for food security. And yet we see a moving forward that we're going to be losing a hell of a lot. So, two things that are sort of separate but linked together. So I think it's good that we put through to a submission to try and get some interest before it's too late, because once it's too late, it's too late.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second this recommendation that we make a submission to the Legislative Council of the Victoria State Government. Corangamite is in a wonderful position in that we do produce, as Councillor Vogel said, a substantial amount of dairy product. We also have red and white meat production, egg production, vegetable production. So food security would seem on the outset to be somewhat okay within our shire. However, that insecurity is about the choices that people are actually making of what food they consume. And I see in the report that sometimes the more convenient food is actually the more expensive food. So the homegrown or the more prepared at home type food is actually working out to be the cheapest. So it's a very interesting report, and I'm very happy to second the recommendation that we do make a submission to state government.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other commentary? Councillor Beard?
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. It was really interesting reading the report, and I think for me, particularly so, because I fit in that, and I know many of us around this table do, we fit in that average family of, we've got young kids at home still, and it was pretty astounding to me just to realise and be reminded, I guess, of we are at a disadvantage compared to people that live in the cities. Our earning capacity is certainly not as much. And our choices, we like to shop local to look after our local community because that's a viability and sustainability of our long-term future. So when it gets to the checkout, and I know I certainly do, it's like, hey, what's the not negotiable this week? Because it's just getting tougher and tougher. So we do need to shine a light on the disadvantage and how it's not equitable across the state. And I certainly agree with what's been said before me, and I'm glad that we are making a submission because this is actually really significant. I think the more people that read this, a lot of people out there wouldn't be aware of this, but when you actually drill down to the report and I guess the summary report, if anyone needs to read anything, that's probably the best one to go with. It really does shine a light on how disadvantaged we are in this particular area of what we should be entitled to.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other commentary? Councillor Kennedy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Just one other aspect I want to take on this. Certainly was the surprising report, what came out of Corangamite in terms of food insecurity. But this, my fellow councillors have spoken to, a lot of the aspects of that particular report, but also want to make comment on doing something about it as well. And you'll see in our officer's report that there's been a remark about I see that this submission can outline our capacity, even here in Corangamite, to play a vital role in improving the picture of food insecurity here in Corangamite, but even more broadly, and change, the way that looks into the future. And it's just interesting that there were 35 recommendations out of the Australian Food Story Feeding the Nation report, and a number of them have direct relevance in Corangamite Shire through our agricultural industry. And in some of the work that we are doing in Grow Corangamite, securing our agricultural future strategy, we are taking up some of those recommendations. Now, I haven't read that particular element of securing our agricultural future strategy just yet because I think it's not quite complete, is it, Ms. Lingley? But I think it's important for our community to know that we've not just read this report and not thought that we couldn't do anything. But, we do have some capacity within Corangamite Shire through our agricultural industries to maybe make some changes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.16, submission, state inquiry into local government funding and services. Mr. Asenjo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The Victorian State Legislative Council Economy and Infrastructure Committee has commenced a new inquiry into local government funding and services. The committee will examine the financial sustainability and funding frameworks of local government, alongside service delivery and the effects of cost shifting from Commonwealth and state governments to local councils. The committee is inviting submissions from individuals and groups, including local councils. An authorisation is sought from council to provide a submission to this inquiry. The terms of reference to this inquiry are the effects of cost shifting from the Commonwealth and state governments to local councils in an examination of vertical and horizontal fiscal imbalances, whether local councils are adequately delivering on their core service delivery objectives, the overall revenue structure of local government, whether the existing revenue structure is sustainable and appropriate, or if alternative models of funding would be more sustainable and appropriate, and other matters. It is also noted, Madam Mayor, that this committee is scheduled to host an inquiry session here in Camperdown in early August. Any submission by Corangamite Shire would likely follow the following themes: funding and revenue streams, including council rates and rate caps, fees and charges, grant funding, and the ongoing financial sustainability of local government; the ability of Corangamite Shire to assess and maintain sustainable service delivery to the community; the role of state and Commonwealth governments in supporting local government funding and services, and highlighting the differences between metropolitan, regional and rural local councils from a revenue and service delivery perspective. Madam Mayor, the request to provide a submission before the inquiry is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Senjo. Councillor, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Hickey, Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I think this is a great opportunity for council to put forward its concerns, and I think it's great that we're going to be having a hearing here in Camperdown, I think 7th of August off the top of my head. But people at home, if you'd like to just check that before you come in. There is a lot of concerns, and we've talked a lot tonight about annual action plans and budgets and the service delivery of councils, and you know we do have limited opportunities for raising funds, and that's why there is so much taken in rates. 46% of our income is in rates. I think that our dependence on grants is getting slimmer and slimmer, and we don't have any other real ways of raising revenue other than fees and charges. Mr. Arsenio has got in here about the differences between metropolitan, regional and rural, and it's obvious, metropolitan councils have huge, income streams, particularly through their parking revenue. Cost shifting is a major thing for us. We've done a piece of work several years ago, Mr. Ray, you would remember, on the impacts of cost shifting in Corangamite Shire, and it comes down to things like, library funding used to be a 75% state government, 25% local. It's completely flipped the other way. School crossing supervisors are the same, where they've been heavily subsidised in the past by state government, and they've just gradually pulled services back. So they're just a couple of examples, but at the end of the day, they're services that are much loved by communities, and when you put them in place, they're very hard to scale back or to indeed, if we decided not to subsidise school crossing supervisors, the impact that would have on our communities and the impasse on our schools to have to provide that service. So it's about those decisions that we grapple with every year when we're doing our budgets, but they are the effect of cost shifting. It was interesting reading the report to see that, when it comes to the split of a dollar of taxation collected at federal level, that only 3 cents in every dollar comes back to local government. We do an awful lot with that 3 cents. We do. Yeah. So I'm fully supportive of submission to this inquiry. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor, and yes, I'm very happy to support this recommendation, or second this recommendation as well. In terms of reference, as spelled out, the 4 areas are very, very pertinent to our business and the way the Corangamite Shire go about their business. In particular, the cost shifting from the other levels of governance, and also the inquiry into the revenue structures, or the investigation of the revenue structures of local council. So I think those 4 areas the 4 terms of reference are very pertinent. And I'd love to be at the Camperdown sitting when we're able to go through those. Unfortunately, there'll be an apology, but it'd be very interesting to sit and just work through that as well. So very happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation. Councillor Cole.
I thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to say, with a lot of these things, the government make the big announcement, get the photographic opportunity, and then we are left holding the bathwater, basically. They've built the bath, we have to keep filling it, and those costs are getting more and more, especially when you consider that a lot of the regulations and red tape are coming from state government, driving up a lot of the costs as well. So I think it's a good thing to have an inquiry and try and sort it out. And if we get 3 cents of the federal government money back, and the ABC is getting 7, I reckon we're doing a better job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item 9.17, Special Charge Scheme Final Costs for Neil Avenue Road Upgrade. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So works have been completed and costs have been finalised for the sealing of Neil Avenue and terrain. Final cost of the scheme was just over $69,000, with total property owner contribution of just under 45,000. Costs have come in under those estimated at time of declaration, and there'll be some small savings to be passed on to the owners. The ceiling of Neil Avenue has improved the amenity for those living in the street and is considered to be benefiting those property owners. So it's recommended that council vary the costs of the special charge scheme and seek contribution from the benefiting owners.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Councillor, there's the recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady. Do I have a seconder for that one? Councillor Gastrone. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Well, this is another John Kelly good news story. He just keeps putting it out there all the time. He just won't let this one go. And we're very happy to hear it again, John. And it's always a pleasure to be able to return some money back to the residents that have participated in the special charge scheme. We do really appreciate it when our residents do that, so that we can build paths that the whole community can enjoy, and certainly that's been fully enjoyed on Cameron Street. So it's much appreciated, and I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Gastrone.
No, nothing to add, Madam Mayor. It's a good project, and I'm sure the people of Neil Avenue are pleased that it's complete.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Gastrone. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I have a conflict on this one, so I'll step out. Councillor Hickey, it's all up to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. I'll draw your attention out of item 9.18, special charge scheme, final costs, Curtis River Road upgrade. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. So works have been completed, costs have been finalised. Again, this is for the sealing of Curtis River Road from the Golf Club area to just past Colcott Street and Timboon. Final cost of the scheme totaled just over 214,000, with property owner contribution just over 17,000. Again, costs have come under those estimated time declaration. There's small savings to be passed on to the owners. Sealing of Curtis River Road has improved the amenity for those living on the road, and it's also improved travel for the through traffic travelling along the road. I mean, particularly those tourists leading to the Trestle Bridge. So that's why there's a high community benefit with this project, and also, as a result, a greater contribution from council. So with that, it's recommended that council vary the costs of the special charge scheme and seek contributions from the benefiting owners.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. Councillors, the recommendation is there before you. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Gastrone. And seconder, please. Councillor Vogels. Councillor Gastrone.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, Mr. Kelly, you just continue on doing this. I just don't know if there's a little bit of fudging of the figures at the last hurdle, but you come in under budget. You do an amazing job in your estimation, so well done to you. And as you've mentioned, this does have a much higher council contribution of actually 92%, with only 8% being collected from the property owners. But I'm sure they are really pleased with the outcome with the sealing of Curtis River Road. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gastrone. Councillor Vogels, would you like to make a comment on the recommendation?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Nothing further to add to that. I was just hoping everyone would sit there and leave you hanging. So Councillor Gastrone was out of the block pretty quick, and it's a good project. Well done, Mr. Kelly, for getting under budget, and much appreciated for the people of Timboon to head out a little bit further down the bitumen before they go onto the gravel on the way to the Trestle Bridge. Very good.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Vogels. Anything further on the subject? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? So carried. Form the Mayor to come back and resume the chair, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Moving on to item 9.19, Ready Now Grants, June Quarterly Acquittal Report. Ms Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Ready Now Grants policy was adopted by Council in September last year and is a targeted program focused on community benefits, supporting community groups and activities where small grants can make a difference. Over the last quarter, so that's from March to May 2024, 14 applications were lodged with 9 grants approved. 5 additional applications were received which did not comply with the relevant council policies, and following discussions with the applicants, 3 were withdrawn. 1 application was seeking funding for garden and maintenance, and that wasn't supported, and 1 is still under negotiation. The budget allocation for the program is $24,253, and grants to the total value of $17,531.64 have been awarded as at the 31st of May 2024. The quarterly report is before you for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Can I please have a mover for that one? Councillor Cole. Seconder, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, I've done a bit of moving of these things, as I believe they're a very good thing for people throughout the Shire. Just as I've said many times before, small amounts of money can make a massive difference to a community, doing all sorts of different things. So, you know, $500 to Clock Tower Quilters in Camperdown for the purchase of community things. Camperdown District Historical Society for a book, a reprint of the Robbie Burns book, which was a great weekend. They've had this last weekend just gone. All sorts of different things. Skipton Progress Association, 2 banners, all sorts of different things. I said it makes a big difference to a small group. So more than happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Hickey.
Nothing further. Very happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.20, Business Assistance Scheme June grants. Miss Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide information on the assessment and recommended funding allocation for the June 2024 round of the Business Assistance Scheme. 4 applications have been assessed to meet the aims of the relevant streams, the assessment criteria and the relevant policies. 3 applications do require a planning permit and are recommended conditional on that planning permit being approved. Under Stream 1, Business Facades, applications have been received from George Taylor's Stores in Camperdown, Pro Dairy in Timboon and Babchi Wines in Timboon. Under Stream 3, Creative Industries, an application has been received from Katie's in Camperdown. Combined, the current applications seek a total commitment of funds of $7,550.91. Planning fees for 3 planning permits are proposed to be waived by council as part of the program at a cost of approximately $644.10. Well, not approximately, it is $644.10. And any relevant building permit fees still apply. The budget for this program is annually $50,000, and therefore with a remaining budget of approximately $29,000. Eligible fee waivers will be allocated to council's planning fee waiver budget. The officer's recommendations before you.
Thank you, Miss Lindley. Councillors, I have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is a really terrific scheme to support our local businesses. It was a reimagining, if you like, of the way that we support our local businesses through our Grow and Prosper Corangamite framework that we've been building. And we adopted this new policy last September. So it's just another form, a better way of managing the way we've been funding our businesses, and it's very exciting to be able to support local businesses with business facade improvement, to be able to support the creative industries and any other form of community enterprise and enabling infrastructure. So I know that the criteria are very particular, and it's these recipients of the support are certainly very worthy, and I am pleased to see that happening and support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor, and I totally agree with what's been said. Just point out the fact that this BAS does provide businesses, building owners, community enterprises the opportunity for support with financial support as well. And again, the businesses would be encouraged to use local suppliers wherever they possibly could to carry out the application. So we're very happy to second this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other commentary? Councillor Strange.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Beard and myself attended the MAB planning conference last week, and it was interesting that one of the speakers is a professor from the University of Tasmania who's written a paper on what makes an ideal main street, and she talked at length about shop facades and making shops as inviting as possible, and obviously, you know, putting out planters and having lots of tables and chairs for people to meet. So I think that discussing it with her afterwards, I was talking about our business assistance schemes, and she just thought that was such a positive thing. So I'd certainly encourage businesses next year, when the new budget's allocated, is to come in and talk to our economic development staff and see what they can do to make their businesses grow.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Strange. Councillor Beard.
Thank you. And just in addition, through you, Madam Mayor, in addition to what Councillor Strange said, what really stood out for me through that presentation from that professor too was that, and you only have to drive up each of our townships and there is empty shop fronts. Don't put the brown paper up. Don't look at like it's not inviting and it doesn't have any potential. We need these businesses they may not be what they used to be in terms of what reopens in there, but let's give every opportunity to that business or that shop front to be loved again. And so I think I can, a handful I'm already thinking about where it just looks like it's been run down, and our communities, we can do better. Like our business, those shop front owners can do better to try and sell them on, and it does come down to the look and feel of it. And I think we learn a lot, but also realised how much Corangamite Shire we're actually doing right.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Ms Lindley, a question without notice is how much money is left in the kitty for these little business assistance schemes? Do we have a figure? It's a question without notice and I apologise.
It will be 50,000 less 29,000.
21,000.
Yeah, 21,000. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just letting
and
other...
this is the last council meeting in the financial year
that it is.
We can allocate.
Yes. No worries. Thank you. Any other commentary? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Any item number 10, other business. Is there any other businesses that council would like to bring up? Councillor Beard, go first.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just want to do a shout out to the Cobden Streetscape project, which I'm really glad Mr. Kelly is here with us tonight, because he's been fundamental. I feel like almost the last man standing, because obviously Brook Love was director whilst this project was unfolding, but this has been a long drawn out project. I'm hoping I'll get a nod from Mr. Kelly in a moment, but I'm really excited. And why I'm saying excited is yesterday we had the installation of 4 Western Star butter. It's the
butter
wrapped
bench.
butter bench. Well, they're seats and they're a piece of art in their own right, but multifunctional. You can sit on them. And I'm looking at this. This is one of the concept designs from when we originally went through the consultation project and process and the engagement process with the Cobden community members. And how those seats come about was literally two ideas come together in one, and it was supported not only by you as councillors but more so from the staff. And I guess we all got outside our comfort zone, and we had a meeting with a local businessman, Greg Suter, who's a local cabinet maker, and he came up with the idea of the Western Star butter wrapped and then the seat on it, and it's multifunctional. It's a piece of infrastructure now that stands out. It's a point of difference for Cobden. It's a $500,000 project that up until probably in the last few weeks or even the last couple of months has literally been the new concrete footpaths, and hadn't been able to really see that there'd been much of a difference made. But now there's been new outstands replanted, which has been a formidable job by our Parks and Gardens team. We've actually got designated gopher parking, which is a first across Corangamite Shire. It could even be a first across the region. So that could be our little claim to fame. There's a gopher charging point too, thanks to the Access and Inclusion Disability project. And yeah, it's just been one of those processes that seemed to take a long time because we had COVID. Took a long time to get contractors involved. I feel sorry for Mr. Kelly because he's had to put up with me throughout that entire process of asking where things are at. But I really hope the Cobden community members and visitors to our township are as happy as I am today, having seen what it's finally come to. And as I said, we didn't have a lot of money. I think originally it was budgeted at $300,000. I'm looking at Mr. Ray because I remember saying to you, there is no way we can do a streetscape for that much when we knew how much inflation was rising. And so we came in at $500,000, but you compare that to a $15 million project at Port Campbell, and I think Cobden's done pretty well. So thank you to all of you. And if you haven't seen those seats yet, it's all over Facebook at the moment, and I'm really rapt to see there's actually positive comments for once. So, and a great community project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, is there any other business? Councillor Hickey?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. And if I may, and just already now, Grant's reminded me of the fantastic weekend, the Robbie Burns Celtic Festival on the weekend in Camperdown. There was many familiar faces up and down the streets on the 2 days that I noticed. However, there was a lot of unfamiliar faces, which meant that there were plenty of visitors to the town as well. And it certainly was alive with events right across the whole weekend. And from the early morning, renditions from the clock tower to the very late night renditions in the Theatre Royal. It was a fantastic weekend, and I personally, along with the Mayor, learnt a hell of a lot about shortbread and the tasting, having tasted 40 samples of shortbread over one morning, which left us very much on a sugar high for the whole weekend. But I would like to say congratulations to the organisers and to our staff who were involved with it. It's a very worthwhile organisation, and just being widened a little bit has meant that it's included so many other people, and look forward very much to next year and how we can be involved in that one. The other thing I was going to talk about was today, June 25th, Tuesday, marked the last of the sale holdings from CRLX, who have been leasing the sale yards, the municipal sale yards for Camperdown for the last few years. Those CRLX still hold the lease for another 90 days. However, they've indicated that the sales will be suspended and all access to those to the municipal stockyards will be suspended too, including the truck wash facility. Our family has been very much involved with the sale yards, having sold most of our cattle through there over a number of years, from the very inception way back in the very early 70s, right through to just recently. And one of my first jobs was actually working with a company called Southern Farmers, who are no longer about, but Graham One would remember who they were, and I was there as a young fellow yarding stock for them. So it certainly has got a special place in my mind. However, what I would say is that the council certainly are looking at an operator who will slip in and take over the lease of the place and provide an opportunity to be able to sell locally again. And those expressions of interest are up on the website. So I'd encourage anybody who was remotely interested to have a look through the conditions and just see if there was some way that they could continue to provide that service. And likewise, the truck washing facility that is temporarily closed, we're looking at how that may operate in the future as well, because as a council, we certainly recognise the service and the convenience and the biosecurity of our agricultural sector that truck washing does provide. So it is quite a sad day really when we do see those sales discontinued temporarily, and I'd certainly hope it's not permanent. Yeah, so that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other general business? If not, Mr. CEO, is there any questions or statements that have been submitted?
Madam Mayor, we've actually got a couple of comments made online this evening.
You sound
which is
surprised.
quite surprised. I'll just reflect them and maybe we can follow up as officers in due course. There's been a comment in relation to the community satisfaction survey results that suggest that notwithstanding the great service of our customer service call centre, there is probably some improvement to be made once calls are transferred, and so that we'll have some conversations around that.
Okay.
And a suggestion by another member of the community is in relation to planning matters, and I'll follow those up with the planning team as well.
No worries. Thank you very
Thanks,
much. No worries. Anyone in the gallery would like to have a comment or a word? No worries. Thank you, Mr. Mulholland. All right, I'll call for a motion to suspend standing orders, please. Can I have a mover for that one, please? Chris Rain and Councillor Cole, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching today. Stay safe, keep warm. I note that school holidays are coming up, so if you are travelling around, please travel safely and keep warm, and we'll see you next month in July. Thank you very much.